Hello, and welcome to the South Coast Artist Index, where artists, performers, and writers, as well as curators, directors, and supporters, anyone with ties to the creative community, drops by to introduce themselves to you. We'll talk about their beginnings, their vision, their passion, and so much more. The South Coast Artist Index podcast is brought to you in part by Heavenly Spirits, who invites you to celebrate the art of life and creative communities everywhere.
Hi, this is Ron Fortier with yet another episode of the In Focus podcast brought to you by the Artist Index. And I don't know how many times I've said it, but as per usual, our guest is going to introduce themselves and spell their name, especially their other name, which is Polish. In case, yeah, because that's what I knew her by. And we'll just take it from there. So go ahead, guest.
Hi, I am Donna Gagnon, Donnagagnon. And back when I was working with Ron, my last name was Dlugozinski. Dlugosinski.
Now, were you related to the Dlugozinskis from Davy's Locker?
That was Delug. That was Milton Delug.
Okay.
He wasn't Dlugozinski. But
okay, so he shortened it.
Maybe, yeah, because we made signs for him. My first husband and I made quarter boards for him in Davy's Locker. They used to hang up there.
Yeah. Someday, if it's okay with you, we should speak about him. He was a historic person in this community. But that's only, yeah.
Yeah. Hello. Yeah. He's a great businessman. Wonderful restaurant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So, I first met you when we were both working through C.E.T.A, which was the Comprehensive Employment Training Act, which was about the only way to stop people from going really poor. This was early 80s, early 80s.
Yeah, early 80s, yes.
And I mean, things were tough. That's the first time I remember seeing anything ever that was generic. And the first generic products I remember were all white with black lettering. I mean, we're talking generic, even like they were as plain as military issue anything, except they were white and not olive drab. Green. And the one memory I have is of recycled toilet paper, recycled generic toilet paper. Now, just the thought of recycled toilet paper.
No, that's a hard no.
yeah, exactly. But it was a motley crew, and I still believe to this day that it would have made a great premise for a situation comedy. It was like The Office in its weird way. The Office mixed with MASH, right? Maybe.
Yes, and you were trying to keep it all together, but they were very creative though in their off the wall, way.
Yeah, and we have to mention that our boss, our supreme leader, was the New Bedford Public Schools Superintendent of Art. And his name was Ray Basalin. He was an artist in his own right. And we were also there when something really horrible started to happen. And I think I may have spoken to you about this way back when, but that is when the art teachers in the elementary school system, I always likened them to bag ladies. That's what they used to refer to homeless women back then, because they went itinerant. They shut down the in-school art teachers. Some of the schools, I think, I subbed at Keith with the premise that I would get that as a full-time position, but I wasn't insane enough to accept that position because the woman across the hall, and her name will come to me at some point, went home crying every single day from the
No.
Keith Junior High School.
Wow.
And it was really, really a mess. Things were all over the place. And but anyway, so they had these itinerant teachers, and Ray Basalem, in order to keep his people going, was a dumpster diver. He would go into the cafeteria trash and pull out the applesauce cups and all kinds of other things, bring it home, wash it, package it up and spread it out to his teachers so that they could use it for paint mixing and so on and so forth.
Right.
That was really, I mean, it just goes to show you in this country, the valuelessness of art or visual education.
Well, of anything. I mean, the teachers right today with the hot weather have to bring in their own fans for their students because the classrooms are so hot. You know, they're all underfunded. But yes, art gets shoved aside quite often. Quite often.
What are your memories? Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say music too. They throw out music and art.
But music, music when it gets to the high school level, if it's associated with football, and football's the sacred cow, the golden calf, they'll never ever, I would say when the senior team is like, tagging, shaking the can for change out in traffic, then things are really bad. But there was a few years ago where they shut down several programs, sports programs.
Wow, that's amazing. That wasn't in my day. When I was in high school, I was in the band playing saxophone, and our budget for music was the funds we got from the concession stand at the sports events.
Mm-hmm.
That's all we had for music money. Wow. This is Fairhaven High.
Right. Wow. Yeah. So let's roll it back in time to a place long, long ago, far, far away in our memories. What are your memories of the Children's Educational Theater Arts program, which we just grabbed C.E.T.A and applied new words to it, and we were very clever doing that. What are your recollections of that?
It was such a fun time, and we were given the job of teaching grammar school students history of New Bedford through a puppet show. And we just went with it, and we had a lot of laughs, but we figured out the major parts of New Bedford's history, wrote the show, recorded the show, made the puppets. I mean, we did everything, and it was just marvelous. And like you said, it was a real cast of characters, but they all contributed in their own way. And I would laugh every day.
Now, to me, the epitome, the capstone of that whole program was that, and I don't think it's just in memory that, you think you did something really great and you go back and actually see the thing go, ooh, that theater that we built a scale theater that had operating curtains, which in theater talk, the curtains flew, and we had scenery, we had lighting.
We did. And our puppets, we had string puppets, we had hand puppets. We had puppets with sticks. We wanted to show the kids all the different forms of puppetry. And, we painted the scenery. We made those puppets. I was very proud of that.
We performed for every elementary school in the city.
We did.
Yeah.
And then it was so popular, they had us do it in the summer.
Yeah, there was a the main play was Ishmael. I don't remember the title of it.
Oh, no, I don't. I thought his name was Adam.
Was it Adam? Okay,
Adam,
you might be right.
And the guy from outer space was 24C because he was seeing into the future. Celeste,
that was her name, the Cape Verdean woman. Who, she was incredibly well credentialed. She had a doctorate degree, but the horrible part about it is that they didn't recognize her education here.
Wow.
Yeah, so she had to struggle to get certified or whatever, and that was awful. She was incredibly intelligent and and well educated because, well, first of all, of her intellect, but because of the school system in Cape Verde that she came from. She was no slouch. I mean, she taught us a couple of things.
Wow.
What was her last name, though?
I can't remember. I cannot remember. I'm bad with names. You've got a good memory.
Well, yeah, but it does have its gaps in it. We also we did that play. Oh, and we did Wanda.
The Wicked Witch of Washington, Wanda the Wandering Witch.
Yeah,
Everything
something like that.
Yeah.
And then there was a lot of alliteration. Wanda the Whale, or I mean, it was fun, and we produced some really good stuff.
Yeah, I liked the map of New Bedford that sang and danced and flew out into the audience.
You just read my mind. We also composed, well, not us, but the inimitable Henry James.
Henry James.
I
yes.
would like to bring people on to talk about him if they have, because again, part of this long journey that we've been on with the Artist Index was to resurrect the dead, so to speak, put up a marker for them, because so many of those people have just faded away. And I remember this song. I'm on my way in the mood of merriment. I'm on my way to the place I have been sent. I don't know why I still remember that thing.
Great, and he had such a wonderful voice, that baritone.
Yeah, he was very what's the word? Like New York 50s beatnik mixed with Paris cafe hanger around guy.
That's true. He had that air about him. Yeah. And he was old enough to have been a beatnik.
And was that accent affectatious, or was that for real? Because he had a theater voice. That's what it was. It was theater.
The theater.
The theater.
Yeah. Yes, you're very enunciated everywhere.
Yeah. A small stature.
Not much taller.
With a big booming voice, right?
Yeah. Well, he sang bass too in choirs. I sang in the New Bedford Unitarian Church choir with him. He was a bass.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Wow. And then there was a woman named Jean, and I want to say Stapleton, but that's the woman who played Edith on All in the Family. Yeah,
her maiden name was Pizazic.
Yeah,
that was her maiden name, but I'm trying to think of what the name she had.
Stevens. I know it was an S.
Name. Jean. Yeah, it escapes me, but she was something. Yeah, she was very creative, brilliant.
Yeah, almost tragically so.
Yes. Yeah. She had a lot of sadness to her, but she came up with some very funny lines for the play, and
she was also a good improviser.
Yes,
because a lot of the adaptations that we made to the original script were because of her improvising for whatever reason. Like, oh God, that curtain didn't change or whatever. She just kept going. And then there was Danny Bannon.
I think that's right. I think that was his name. Yeah. I don't really remember what he did in that. I remember him being there, but I don't remember what he did. I just remember sitting around the table, and you would start a sentence, or I would start a sentence, and then you could finish it. We could almost finish each other's sentence back then, because we were all on the same. Once we got our minds going, it just snowballed into a wonderful thing. Everybody putting in and oh yeah, and this, and let's try that. Oh, what a great idea! Let's do this, and it was the energy in the room was great.
It was almost like an episode from the Dick Van Dyke Show, and Maury and was it Rosemary? Was that what was her name? It was that kind of a vibe. And I'm trying to think. There was a David Forts.
Yes.
I think he was more the craftsman guy, the builder guy.
Yes.
who take on those kinds of projects. And then, and you're right, we did have string puppets. We did have hand puppets, and we had silhouettes or stick puppets, almost like Punch and Judy, where they operated. Yeah. And oh, and then there was that guy who, for the longest time, I still wonder what happened to him. I think his name was Bob Anderson, Robert Anderson. I'm close, and I might not be on the money. I do remember he said he went to Emerson for theater. He was
But that's such a common name. There's no way to track that down.
I know. And there was a Bob Anderson who just passed away recently who was an artist. I think he was a Swain graduate.
That's right. Yeah, it's not the same. Yeah.
And he was brilliant, but I believe he well, he's passed, so there's no danger in mentioning he was afflicted by bipolarism. Because I do remember, he had that one medication which a family member took for the exact same thing. And he wrote, the only way I could keep him in control, because if he went off his meds, he would start raging.
Yeah.
And I got him to write, just to write.
Right. And he did.
And he did pages and pages and pages of it. And I copied all of his work way back when, and I kept it. And it had gone with all my stuff over to Portugal. And when it came back, I started going through it, and I said, I am bound and determined to do a series of paintings at least in tribute to him. Because there's that one thing that he was really immersed in was the widow's walks on these houses.
Right.
Imagining a wife, a lover, pacing, waiting for their loved one to come back from a whaling voyage.
Right. Very hard.
Yeah. And it was so profound. It was something else. Anything else do you remember from that?
I remember we had other things to do. We had to go into the schools, and we were assigned to do whatever the principal wanted. So we would either, like, we did plays for Black History Month at Carney Academy.
Yes, with Dr. Waters.
Oh yeah, what a wonderful man, Colonel. Yeah, and he was great. He knew every kid's name, their brothers and sisters' names, their family. He really brought a little discipline to those wild children. He was really great.
Mrs. Shepherd at the Josiah Kempton School, she was that way as well. Button your top button, stand up straight, smile. It's not that awful. How's your mom doing? It was. They were like politicians as well as principals.
Right. Ellery Sherman at Parker School was another wonderful guy. He'd be funny. He'd go on the intercom. This is your captain speaking, and oh, it was fun. It was fun. We did murals on the walls in a couple of schools. One of them we had to make we had to make costumes out of just paper. That was all was in the budget. And we went into all the classes, special needs classes, and would do movement for them. It was nice to have that to do. And I learned a lot from the children too.
Mm-hmm. Do you remember, now Ray had like a network that was crazy back then. He knew everybody.
He did.
Well, there's two things. One thing is, and I wonder if that film still exists. They taped or filmed, it was a 16 millimeter film. They filmed the Adam in a Space Age, or whatever the heck it was called.
They did?
Yeah, they did, because that went to a National Educators Conference, Art Educators Conference in Georgia of that year.
That's
and
great.
He got a lot of attention for it, and I think
he
probably
did.
got some grant money. Well,
we got nothing.
Yeah. We got C.E.T.A ending and had to go find another job.
Laid off.
Yeah, exactly. There was that. And I did speak with Milton Brightman, who worked
Oh, nice.
very close by us, but he was not in our project.
No, he wasn't. He was in the next room making
Right.
these gigantic paintings, which I loved.
I hope they're still around. He sent me a photograph of one that was
good.
absolutely stunning. You know, one of his
Yes.
moonlight in the harbor kind of things.
Oh,
I
yes.
love that style much more so than his impressionist style. I love them both, but there's just something so powerful about that. So let's really roll it back. Before that C.E.T.A program, you played saxophone in the band at Fairhaven High.
Yes.
And how did you get into the visual art?
Well, I always liked both. And growing up, I was always drawing, and my parents would send me to the summer camp at Swain School, and I'd draw there and learn all kinds of things. But I always played either piano or a recorder or a cello. And once I heard the Dave Brubeck Quartet, I wouldn't rest until my parents bought me a saxophone.
Oh.
And I would not let them rest.
I thought I knew you.
So I did play in high school, and then I played in a couple of wedding bands and made some extra money. And when I was in college, I bought my school books that way. So I was in college for visual arts.
Where did you go?
Well, S.M.T.I, then S.M.U. But back then, they wanted everybody to do modern art, which I do like, but I am not good at it. I am just not good at modern art. I just can't do it. I like representational art. So they weren't happy with me doing that, although they liked my life drawings.
Yeah, it's funny you should bring that up. And I want to step back a little bit in just a bit. Painting studio wise, it was very heavily abstract because Ed Togneri was a student of Hans Hofmann. Herb Cummings, was he there at the time?
I think so.
He was not exactly an abstractionist. He was more of Larry Rivers kind of, if I remember that vibe that he had. But the drawing program was so unbelievable. You could tell to this very day who went to school there by their drawing.
I'll bet. It was really good. They walked around. We had good models. We had good instruction, and they'd let you get into trouble before they'd step in and help you.
Exactly.
Which was not.
Did they have Ellie and Ella, the two models there?
That sounds familiar.
They were both
hefty.
Yes, they were large ladies.
Yeah, which is great to get the forms of the,
Yeah, we could draw them blindfolded and asleep. And then Ellie was actually, I don't know what her background was, but she would come during breaks and look at our drawings and give really good critiques.
She did.
Yeah, and she passed out cookies. So, I mean, where else are you going to get cookies from a naked lady?
I know. And it was legal.
Yeah, and it was legal. Yeah. So and then I want to roll back a little bit more. The Saturday morning, there was a Saturday morning program, and then there was a summer Swain program. That has affected so many people that either made them lovers of art or actually nudged them into the field of art.
That could very well be. I mean, they really were encouraging and gave you all the freedom in the world to experiment with whatever you were up to. Mm-hmm. And it really did. Did encourage me. I was always torn between both the music and the art, so I just decided to do both.
Yeah. Who were your instructors at the Swain Summer?
I'm very bad with names. It's one of my failings. Mm-hmm. But when I was older, Pam Thayer was a teacher there, and when she was on vacation, I'd fill in for her with the class. Mm-hmm. So I remember doing that. But so much happened. When I was in college, I got married, and then my husband was in Vietnam, and so much happened. A lot of the previous stuff fell by the wayside.
Yeah. Yeah, which often happened. I do remember Togneri telling me on the QT, because feminism was on the rise. It was the beginning with Gloria Steinem and all, and telling me how he hated teaching women art. And I'm like, whoa, where you going with that? He's like, no. It has nothing to do with that. It has to do with the fact that some of these women have every ability to be a phenomenal artist. In fact, some of them could wipe the floor with you guys. That's what he would say. But they're going to get married. They're going to get pregnant. They're going to put down that brush. They're never going to pick it up. And that breaks my heart. It gives me so much pain.
So often that happens. And that did happen to me because I did the music, more music after that because I needed a part-time job. But yeah, when you have a little one, that takes up your time and you owe that to your children. So
yeah, you owe them your time. Yeah,
you do. I mean, that's my best creation was my son. So
yeah, I know what you mean.
I always drew things for him, and I painted Donald Duck and Mickey Mouse on his wall for him, and I always did that stuff. And
did he ever get bitten by the art bug?
He likes it, and he likes music, but he doesn't do either one of them. But he enjoys, so that's as long as they enjoy it.
Yeah, my daughter's that way, and the weird thing is she always felt like she was in my shadow, that she would never be as good as I am. And I'm like, I'm not that good.
Oh,
I mean, really, that's sort of a crazy reason. But her daughter went on, and this is a kid who you gotta love to hate her sometimes. Whatever she touches, it's gold.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
I mean, she not only bakes really well, but the cake decorating is so good that people ask, what bakery did you get that from?
Oh, wonderful.
And it's like, no, she made it.
That was cake decorating is one of the million jobs I did when I had to make money.
Did you work at Home Like?
I worked at I was the head baker at the Super Shaw's in Fall River. I was
really
there for a while, and there were so many companies because I worked as an illustrator and all kinds of advertising, and companies were closing and closing and closing. And I said, I'm going to go work at Shaw's. That's not going to close for a while.
People got to eat, right?
So I kind of just chilled out there for a while. But doing the cake decorating was fun. But I have not decorated one since.
Wow. I want to go back to SMTI, Southeastern Massachusetts Technological Institute, because I came in either on the cusp. In other words, when I was admitted, it was still SMTI, but when I started, it was S.M.U, something like that.
The other way.
Yeah. Who do you remember as your instructors? Ed Tonieri was one.
North. I don't remember his first name. North did that. He was a great one for the painting, and I was doing pastels, and he had worked for some wonderful places, and then he ended up there for some reason, and I was glad he was there. I remember struggling one time with an apple. I had done an apple, and I was trying to get the highlight on it, and nothing was working. And he looked at it, and he picked up a very pale green pastel, and he went, "Phoop!" And there was the highlight. And I went, thank you. That's what I was looking for.
Let's see. Was George Meller there, the sculpture teacher? He did sculpture and ceramics.
Yeah, I think so, but I didn't have any of those classes, unfortunately.
McCabe, I can't remember her first name. She had polio. She had a brace and crutches. I remember her. Every time I touch an X-Acto knife or a matting knife, I remember her, because the first lesson is, I want to teach you how not to cut off your fingers.
Yeah, I do. I still have a scar from where I put my arm on it, reaching for something. Yeah, she was very nice. Very, very nice.
And then I'm trying to think of anybody else that may have overlapped. I know that Bill Elliott, Willoughby
Oh,
Elliott,
yeah,
he
I
didn't
love.
come in until I think he was probably there the year I started. So he started as an instructor the first year I entered. I entered in there in 71. When did you graduate?
I was in there from 64 to 67.
Wow, wow. So where were they in the on the new campus, or were they based down in
Well,
the?
it was strange. The first year I was downtown New Bedford.
Mhm.
The second year, the art department was in Fall River because they had joined up with Durfee.
Durfee Tech, yeah.
So the third year, they finally had the first building finished in Dartmouth. So I was in the same school in 3 different locations. So
Well, it was a commuter school, so you commuted.
yes, I
Right.
did.
Yeah. Wow.
It was a great time. It was a great time.
Yeah. Most memorable memory. What was that?
I said, but you have to grow up and leave there. So
Yeah. Now, did they have the first cafeteria in the basement of Group One? And it was
yes.
a weird thing. It was this door with a little window. It was almost like a speakeasy back from the Prohibition era. You knock on the door. Yeah, what do you want? Get some French fries. It was very bizarre, but let me tell you, those French fries are the best French fries to this day. I measured all French fries against those.
They were very good. They were very good.
Yeah.
A lot of times I'd bring my lunch though, but yeah. No, I liked going there. It was, and I could live home and save the money. So never had to.
Now, after graduation, where did you go from there?
Well, I was, like I said, I got married. I had my son, and then I worked. When he got a little older, I worked in some advertising agencies. I worked for a printer, and that was just.
You remember the names?
Oh, I worked Rodney Printing.
Ah, Rodney Shaker. Nice.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. And that was just, computers were just starting in, but they'd take the cartoon I did and they'd put it on the screen and set the type around it because they didn't have any way to do it back then.
Yeah.
They had the ruby liths and the
Ambolith, yeah.
Ambolith, and oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So I learned everything about printing and decided I hated it. But I did that and I worked at Kazwara Associates. And he had gone to high school with Ed Markey. So we got the City of New Bedford account. Mm-hmm. So we did all kinds of stuff for the City of New Bedford, and that was fun. And then that ended. And then I did a lot of freelance. And I worked for a civil engineering company, GHR Engineering. And I would have stayed with that forever. I loved it. I loved the people. But the people that were running it started taking the money. And
was that on William Street? GHR?
GHR was on Tarkin Hill Road. Okay. And then they had a place in Lakeville and in Middleborough. And I worked at all 3. But they started playing games with the money. Mm. And that went up. So that broke my heart. So then I worked for the city. I went back to college. I got a degree in sociology. And then I worked for the city for a while.
What did you do?
I was at J-Tech job security. Yeah. Getting people welfare to work and all that. And then they just seemed to not ever hire me because they liked sending me around to different departments because I was good at a lot of things. Mm-hmm. I was getting better and better at computer by then. So when I met my second husband, he said, well, I live up in Boston. You should come up there. There's more jobs. So by that time, my son was getting older and he was going to get married, and the four of us were all living together. And I said, well, I don't want my son coming home from his honeymoon saying, hi, did you have a good time on your honeymoon? So
yeah.
I moved up, and we lived in Quincy for 18 years.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, and it was like a piece of cake getting a job. If there was no job, you got a job with a temp agency. And so I ended up working at PSR Incorporated, which was an IBM business partner. And I worked right with the owner, did the bookkeeping, proposals, a little bit of everything. Right. So I did that for 18 years.
Wow.
But by then, my parents were falling off a cliff because they were old. And I started coming back down here a lot more. And then we bought a house here in 2012. So when we moved here, I said, I want to get back into painting. And I tracked down Deborah Macy, who was teaching on Tuesday nights at Vogue. And I said, it's good. No cell phone service. My parents can't call me. My son can be on duty. And so I started painting with Deborah Macy, who's the finest portrait painter I know. And so when I started painting people, she came over to me. She says, well, I hate you already. So we became instant friends. I said, well, thank you.
When you were up in Boston, did you ever, and this is the only one that I remember from the countless interviews that I did, only because of the kindness of the art director, Hill, Holiday, and Cosmopolis.
No.
I believe his name was Ron Reagan, believe it or not.
Wow.
And you know what it was like trying to get with the portfolio, the big ones, trying to get in and out of a trolley without getting caught in the door.
Oh, that's awesome.
And I made my way up there, cold called completely. And he comes out of his office and he said, I'm only going to talk to you for one reason, but you got to make me a promise. And I said, what's that? When you get to have a job like mine, you're going to remember this day and you're going to do the exact same thing for somebody else. I'll never forget that. That was such a cool thing.
That is cool.
It really affected me. Yeah.
And you are warm and generous, and you fulfilled your promise.
Well, thank you. Now you are back to painting again. Was there a gap in your
The gap was when I moved to Quincy, because I was so busy taking care of I'm an only child. Mm-hmm. So I had to manage the care of my parents and, working, and it was just too much. So you get home at the end of the day, you just want to sit down. If somebody called and commissioned something, I'd do it. Mm-hmm. So I kept my hand in, but not regularly. And you really have to do it all the time.
Yeah.
But I didn't really paint till I came back here more, earnestly. And then I retired in 2015, but I was already painting thanks to Debbie. And so I haven't stopped since then. And then I joined a lot of different groups, and Gallery X was a big help to me. They're such a nice bunch of people there.
Yeah, I always call them the teething ring of the creative community. Because it's an open door. Their classic public hanging, which they've decided they can no longer use that because things are just too ugly to be using that kind of a term. But it was non-juried. As long as you paid you $5 or whatever it is to put in your 3 pieces, you were in the show. And that, for some people, that was their first public showing.
Right. That's why where I was just getting back into it, it was, like you said, non-threatening, and I just threw things up there, and I was happy with that. And then while I was up in Boston, every year there was a senior art show at UMass Boston. Mm-hmm. And I always won a ribbon for something with that. So that was encouraging. And then I've joined the Marion Arts Center, the South Coast Artists.
WAG, Westport Art Group.
I haven't joined that one yet. They should probably check that out.
There's a former classmate, and she was president or key person in WAG, or the Westport Art Group, for years. Her name was Patty Churchill, and she has
great
just
name.
disappeared.
Huh.
None of us have been able to dig her up, so to speak. I hope that's not going to be an ironic term, but it's considering our age now. I mean, but she was very dynamic, and I think she was instrumental in getting that art group. It's a little backwater town, Westport. You've got the pecking order of New Bedford and Dartmouth, and then there's Westport.
But you got such beautiful scenery in Westport.
Exactly.
Gold mine subjects, yeah.
Another woman artist, and she worked for me because my previous C.E.T.A employment was for the Office of Historic Preservation, Mayor's Office of Historic Preservation. I worked with Tony Souza doing that windshield survey of every edifice in the city of New Bedford prior to 1920.
Wow.
And her name was Deb Healy. And she was a painter. And if the stories that were told to me is that she was displaying her work somewhere, some woman comes along and said, "Hey, I really like that work." They bought the work, then contacted her later or something and said, "Hey, I've got a studio space you can have for nothing. As long as you give me a couple of paintings every once in a while, I'll be happy." And her career just, went off like a rocket supposedly after that.
Awesome.
Yeah. But
is she related to Barbara Healy? Because she's a good artist in the area.
I don't know. I didn't. I spoke with Barbara. I don't know if I did ask her, but it reminds me of that old TV show, Naked City, where they would say there's a million stories in a naked city, and there's a million stories in the creative community of people who have come and gone. Some of them have had bright careers and big fish, little pond kind of thing. Walter Owen is another one that just popped into my head. He was an editorial cartoonist. He was an art instructor.
Yeah.
Frank Raposa.
Yes. Yeah.
Did you know him?
I did. Yes.
Yeah, he was my high school art teacher, and he was instrumental in me getting into S.M.U, Southeastern Massachusetts University. He was a phenomenal watercolorist. He was something else. I mean, there's just so many people at the time, and then there was another one. I never met the gentleman, but his work was everywhere, and he was, I think, more of a marketing genius than a painter. And I don't mean that with any disrespect. Louis Sylvia.
Yes.
He'd have
I still see his paintings around.
Yeah, 24 by 18 painting of whale ship coming into the harbor on the left, whale ship coming into the harbor in the center, whale ship coming into the harbor on the right, whale ship leaving the harbor on the right, whale ship.
He never got sick of painting those.
No, he never got sick of painting those. And they were everywhere. And yet, I don't think I've run across another one. I know the Southeastern Mass Bank and Trust or whatever it was had a bunch of his work, and they were everywhere. And then and now you see Arthur Menezes' stuff everywhere. He was wonderful, great illustrator. Yeah,
and I worked with him on Yellow Pages years ago.
That's where I had met him. That's right. Were you guys based up the Cape, or were you down in?
No, he lived in Fairhaven. He lived in Fairhaven. I just go to his house. Yeah.
All right, because I know there was an office up the Cape, but maybe that was later in time when they
maybe that's where he
tried to
maybe that's where maybe that's where he brought him after. I just went to his house and found out what to do. And he was a great guy, wonderful guy. It's a shame he had to go so early.
Yeah, and then the other gentleman I used to see every Saturday morning when I go food shopping at Shaw's in Fairhaven, because I preferred the Fairhaven Shaw's, believe it or not, than the Dartmouth one. And his name was Milt Healy, and he did all of the murals in Whites of Westport before they did the redecoration. Yeah, nice. He was also an old advertising guy, and he would tell me that one of his typical days was I think he worked for Mars Bargainland, which had its own art department. I'd love to see anybody who had experience there. There was a a gentleman of color, which was very, very rare. I think he was the art director there. But Milt would tell me that, he'd come into work and there'd be a box of shoes on a table next to his drawing table. And his job was to take out his pen and ink and draw every one of those shoes.
Wow.
Line cuts.
Nice.
Can you imagine that?
Yeah, I would have liked to have done that. That would have been a fun job.
Especially with the speedball. That's what it was. Speedball was the big tool of the day.
Wow. I think there's such a vast amount of talent in this area. It's so nice to be back here with so many wonderfully talented people.
Right. Now you've come out with a couple of big splashes. You've had a couple of successful first time in a long time coming out party, things, right?
Well, the most recent one was in April. I had a one-woman show at the Wamsutta Club, and that was I sold like 14 paintings. I was amazed and thrilled.
That's a year's worth for most people.
Yeah, wow, some of them I liked and was hoping wouldn't sell.
It's always the opposite, right?
Right, but I got commissions from that too. So I had done a pair of my husband's work boots, and that sold. I could have sold it 4 times, and somebody ordered G-clay prints of the shoes because they wanted to keep one and give one away.
So what is it about work boots? Does it go back to Van Gogh? Or, if you're really cool, you say it right, Van Gogh. Van Gogh. Yeah.
I did them because my husband was a Teamster.
Yeah.
And he wore those day in, day out. And so I painted it like they're on the floor. Sun's coming in the room. It's morning again. You're going to have to put on those shoes and go to work again. And I think that resonates with a lot of people. The blue collar people have to get up and do it every day.
A badge of courage, right?
It is. Yeah. So that was but they were landscapes, seascapes, couple of downtown pictures. And they sold, and I was just very gratified. It was very nice. And now I have the art loft in Fairhaven, which is a great place to get art supplies.
Just down the street, yeah.
Yeah, I am the artist of the month for September. So I've got some stuff there, and I buy Rosemary and Co. brushes there. They're the only one in the country to sell them.
Don't talk to me about those, okay? That's like it's like crack for artists. Those things, they're so well made. It's like they're like Rolls Royce of brushes.
They are, and I'll buy one at a time. And
I use chip brushes.
Yeah. Well, so chip ones are good. Chip brushes are great for
laying in. Yeah.
For trees in the background. Just matching it in.
Yeah.
But I just adore my Rosemary and Co. brushes. So.
She also has a line of it's almost like a mini commercial for her. What's her name again?
Tina Collier.
Tina. I was just say
T-E-N-A.
T-E-N-A.
Yeah.
She has a line of chalks from England, I think it is.
She may. I haven't looked at those yet.
I've got to go down there, but I was like, no, I can't go down there without any money because what's the sense? It's sort of like, I don't know, going to a bakery and like, can I help you? No, I'm just looking.
Oh, yeah. It's a wonderful little place. Very bright and cheerful.
So what does the next day and the day after that hold for you as an artist? I mean, do you find yourself getting to a point where, I hate to use that term, I use it for myself, that I think I've gotten smarter than I was a year ago, and I didn't realize I wasn't that smart a year ago. It's like, I don't know, it's like these weird cathartic moments I've been having where it's like, I've been searching for something for the longest time, and it's been there under my nose all this time. How about you?
That does happen. I look at different, of course, I like to look at the old masters, but I found a couple of people. There's a guy in Australia or New Zealand, anyway, that Andrew Tischler, and I've been looking at his stuff, and the way he does the waves, because I love painting water, and watching a couple of his things really helped me see things that I thought I didn't know. But it's one of those aha
Yeah.
moments.
Yeah.
And
My first and only private painting instructor. It was weird. I would go to what's Mr. Soares' first name? Was it Louis? Oh, I'm blanking out. They were both on Arch Street in Dartmouth. So it was Mr. Soares. And the reason why I think I'm blanking out is because it was Mr. Soares. It was just a thing of respect.
right.
He was in the Dixie Jazz Band. He was a composer. He was like a phenomenal musician. And I
Wow.
was an utter failure at guitar when all the boys were playing guitar. And just down the
Yep.
street was Mal Oliveira, who worked at Concordia Boatyard in Dartmouth. I don't remember how I got hooked up with him. It may have been Mr. Soares. And he taught me all those tricks. I think if I would have stayed with him and stayed as a objective painter, I always wondered, because he told me things about waves. He's like, okay, people paint them like they're cement. They're not. They're translucent. When they start to tip over, you can see through them, and the color changes. And
Right.
every time I look at a horizon, I think of him. He said one of the tricks to make the horizon really, really work is to really drop a very thin, broken line of cadmium, orange, and white, because where the sky meets the sea, there's this weird kind of thing that's happening. It's only along that line.
Right.
And I remember those things very fondly,
Yeah, and it you do have to think about the way, because the top of it will reflect the sky, but you're looking through it to the bottom, so the coloring's totally different, which makes it interesting. And the water's different every day.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And when I look at my seascapes, every one of them's a little bit different. So it's not the whale ship coming into the harbor. The whale ship.
So, seriously, what's ahead for you? I mean, do you have like a specific goal? Is it just I'm going to paint another 20 paintings, or I'm going to just stick with plein air, or I'm going to do whatever?
My husband likes to take me on mystery rides, and because he knows when we're riding along, every once in a while I'll say, "Stop the car." He'll like, but he knows I see something, and I'll take a lot of pictures and I'll draw sketches. And when I get to the end of the painting, that's when, at the very end, is when he sees what I saw. And because it's this spark of light against the dark, and it's just, I just love shadow and light, contrast, and either something light through the trees, or it's just so I don't know what's going to inspire me. I just finished a portrait commission. A couple wanted to have paid Narum in the background because that's where they live, and they take hikes over the bridge, so that had to be in there. And she wanted her necklace in there because that was the first gift he gave her. And so, it's like a challenge. So it's like everything's it's a mess until it isn't.
Yeah, exactly.
But I had to do her necklace about 10 times. So I went over to the art loft and got 2 micro brushes by Rosemary and Co.
Yeah.
And I finally got it, but I had to like put a book under the canvas and very intensive, very steady hand.
Yeah.
It had, but I got it done, and they were very happy with that. And somebody wants me to do their dog, and then somebody else wants me to do St. Thomas, a sunset where her daughter got married. So I've got a few of those, but there's other things. I've got a whole folder of things I want to do, and I want to do a nice still life of flowers. I want to do this. Remember we had all the fires in Canada, and the sky was so funny.
Yeah.
It's like everything's gray, and then there's that red sunset. I want to do one of those.
Like an alien landscape.
Yeah. So I never know what's going to inspire me, but it's usually people, places, and pets.
People, places, and pets.
Yeah.
That sounds pretty good. Any other plans? Any hopes, dreams, desires?
Well, I'm getting older, so I'm hoping my granddaughters are healthy and have a great life. You know, they all have jobs in Boston now, so I'm happy for them. And my son seems to be doing pretty good. So no, I don't have a lot of, and I don't have a lot more dreams. I just am happy to be here. I've been all over the place, so it's nice to be here. I'm comfortable here.
Yeah.
Being with good friends. And, you know.
Well, and I don't want to put you on a spot, but it is kind of contemporary. And years from now, when people are listening to this, now they've got a historical event to put this up against. Especially since at the very beginning of this podcast, you mentioned that you, when you went into SMTI, Southeastern Massachusetts Institute of Technology, that you were first on what campus? The downtown?
Downtown New Bedford.
Where was it? Downtown.
That was if you're heading south on Route 18, and you're not quite to where you swing up to go downtown. That the exit just before then. If you take that exit, it's an auto glass place.
Oh, it used to be Glazer Glass. Are you talking about the brick building across the street?
So the brick building to the left of that is where it was.
My father taught there. He was a trainee instructor for the Berkshire Hathaway.
Fantastic.
Yeah. So where was the second one?
The second one was across from the Armory in Fall River.
In Fall River. Okay.
Yeah. And that was
low price Lenny's. That was like low price Lenny's Castle. But yeah,
because we would look out those windows at the castle and stuff. So, and then like I said, the third year we finally got out to the campus
in Dartmouth.
Right. So I was taking photography and we'd take pictures of them building the next buildings.
Oh, was Ted Mead the instructor of photography?
Yes.
Yeah, there's a throwback, that gentleman with a pipe and his glasses and the gray lab coat with his hands always in the pockets. He's such a kind and gentle man. All right, so now you know, when I went to S.M.U, we were in LART. Well, they refer to it now as LARTS, the liberal arts building. But when we went there, it was Group 1 because it was the first building, right?
Right.
And when we graduated in 75, the CVPA building, which there was no CVPA, it was an art department, if I remember correctly, was a hole in the ground.
Just about.
Yeah. And when I returned from Miami, I think they were almost done. I do remember Dietmar Winkler was the dean. And I had no concept of what a dean was, because we didn't interact with any of those people when I was there. It was just all of our instructors, and that was it.
Dietmar is great. When I went back to school, I worked in the publications department with Mike Mahoney and Dietmar.
Oh, yes. Were you there with Ruth as well?
I don't know.
Yeah, she'd been there forever too.
No, probably. She's probably there.
I think it was Ruth. And then about how many years ago now, they decided that they were going to save the Star Store by because the CVPA program was growing. So they pretty much set them up in the Star Store building. It had a beautiful gallery downstairs. Lasse Altensen was the first curator.
Yeah.
Fiero Leavitt was the second, and the subsequent second and last curator, unfortunately. And then, you know, as they say, the shit hit the fan. What the heck happened?
It seems to be so complicated. It seems like Paul Downing has other plans with Noah to put them in there.
Noah,
but he seemed
the Woods Hole people, or the
that NOA,
oceanographic, atmospheric, National Oceanographic atmospheric, yeah, right. NOA, right?
I believe I
Yeah.
believe you're right. Yeah, that's what I've heard. He's been talking with them. The college doesn't seem that interested in that. They seem to be more swinging towards digital art. They haven't been hiring new people. So there's lots of fingers to point. But I still don't know why they didn't buy that building for $1 when they had the chance. But I think Downey contested that dollar deal. I hear different things.
I think it was one of those phew moments. Phew, wipe your brow. We wanted to dump this program or this college, and we had this real estate issue, and along comes Noah, who wants the building, and the owner is like, hey, I can cut a better deal because. So that was one portion, but to me, it looked like not to use the French term, a denouement of the program. It was pretty much an eviction. I mean, their dumpsters they were tossing stuff into the dumpsters.
It's very, very, very sad. I was so upset when I heard that. It was such a nice addition to downtown. It really lifted it up, and the coffee shops and the little businesses. And with them gone, you wonder if they'll survive. It's every time something good happens to the city, somebody smacks it down again. I was very upset. Very upset.
Yeah. And as an alum, do you feel any connection, whether it's rancor or I mean, there's probably pride, there's rancor, there's anger, there's
I don't know what I feel. It's like that was another part of my life. I went there, I loved it. It served me well, but realistically things happen, and if the powers that be don't want that to happen, it's gone. I just think it's a done deal, but I like to show support to those students who had their lives thrown up in the air.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, are they going to be able to get their stuff? Are they throwing it out?
Hey, Mom and Dad, you spent $23,000 for me to go to Bed Bath and Beyond.
Yeah, there's T-shirts.
Yeah.
About that. Yeah.
Oh, is there?
Yeah, there's T-shirts.
I think I might know who the printer is. Oh gosh.
I want one.
Yeah. So we gotta wrap this up. I can't believe this went by that fast. I really can't. I mean, there's just so many memories and so much territory that we have covered separately, individually, and together and separately, that it's like, I don't know about you, but my brain's like being trying to figure, try to pull stuff down.
Right.
Right. And if you don't ask questions like, did you know this person or whatever, you'll never know. You'll never know.
No, it's funny how many other people know that you didn't know they knew. And it is fun.
It's a small community.
It is, but I was delighted when I saw that you would come back, because I hadn't seen you in so many years.
Yeah, it was a fun group, that was for sure. So the final question, and I'm trying to think of if you had the ability to change, not for you, but if you had the ability to change anything in that timeline that we were talking about, that would affect not only other people positively, but would affect you, the effects would have been felt throughout your career till now, what would that be?
I think I would have moved to the Boston area sooner, because everything here kept closing, and it was a depressing time, and you couldn't get anything rolling. I had no peaceful atmosphere, so I could create decent paintings. So I probably would have gone to Boston sooner, but I would always have come back, because this is my home, and I'm really delighted to be back here. So,
I mean, for a while, and maybe it's too strong a term, but it was almost like a cultural desert.
Yeah.
For a city that had shone so brightly, we had, to go with the pun, the shining brightly. We had so many luminaries in this city, so many firsts, so many, speaking with Naomi Slip, the curator, from the New Bedford Whaling Museum, and it's like either all roads led from New Bedford for a period of time, or all roads crossed New Bedford, or all roads came to New Bedford. I mean, Frederick Douglass, Booker T. Washington. I mean, it just goes on. It just goes
It
on.
does. Yeah, so many.
Yeah, and then now we finally have a situation where everything seemed to be going full strength. The artist community is now not seen as a bunch of outcasts, but they're seen as a viable contributor, or viable contributors to the economy, to neighborhoods, to everything, the quality of life. And then, oops, there it is. Yeah. So.
Well, like, it's still a vibrant community with and there's top-notch musicians and artists here. It's a great place to be.
Yeah.
I'm delighted to be among them.
Do you think that if someone took up the mantle of the Swain School's Saturday morning classes or their summer camp, do you think that would be successful and have as lasting an impact as the original one did?
Wouldn't that be nice? That really would be nice. There are so many, children are all creative, so people tell them they're not. And it would be nice to offer that.
Yeah.
The kids. I know, some individual places have classes for children, but I'm not sure how many and how where they are. But that would be nice. But I don't know. Where does the money come from? It's always the money.
Yeah, and I think too. As a private instructor, you could do that, but I think for some reason having the institution to back you, like the Swain School of Design was an institution.
It was.
And it was a great outreach program for them. Yeah.
It was. It was a great place, and a lot of them moved over to S.M.U. and then UMass Dartmouth, but. I don't know. It seems people are concentrating more on digital art now.
Right. And AI is the next big thing. Well, I got to wrap this up because this has been great. But we got to have coffee. We got to go to the sip and sit or something like that, or and talk some more. Well, folks, we're wrapping up another episode of the In Focus podcast on the Artist Index, and our guest today is Donna Gagnon, who wow, do we go back in time? So it was probably like a magical mystery tour. So folks, until the next time, remember, just be nice to each other out there. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
We'll see you next week for another episode of the South Coast Artist Index podcast. To learn more about the South Coast Artist Index, visit theartistindex.com. Find us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube.